Hello and welcome to Climbing Daily. Today we're in the Peak District. It's fairly sunny-ish and we're here to climb with this man Tom Randall and check out a pretty special crag.
Howdy.
Tom, nice to see you, thank you. We're going to Millstone, right?
Yes, we are, yep. Favourite, definitely my favourite crag in the Peak District.
There's been so many videos of you doing various lines there, like some really hard ascents and also some fairly funny ascents as well.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mixture. That's probably what can be said about a lot of mine and Pete's climbing.
This is true. Right, so we're in the car park right now. We're going to head over there, drop down into the quarry, get to it. So here we are, Tom, we're at the main crag itself and we're coming up to a line that I've always wanted to climb, and I think every climber at some point has thought about climbing this thing, which is Master's Edge. And it's a line that every year you and Pete come dressed in fancy dress and climb it.
Yeah, it's a line which has got a lot of history for both me and Pete now, and we're coming up to the 10th year of fancy dress Master's Edge birthday event, so we've been climbing it a long time and it's just, it's got to be one of the best lines in the Peak District.
To talk through the route, it's fairly unprotected up to the shot holes that you can see kind of midway, and then there's kind of weird cams, and then you have to do the rest of it with no more gear.
Yeah, it essentially breaks down as a really high ball, so sort of like a super high ball, to the shot holes where you get two, like you need a specialist cam that will go into the shot holes because it's really particular in shape. And then from there you're going to run it out to there's a big jug about, what must be 25 foot above that, and essentially that last bit of the climbing is the psychological and physical crux, because you've got a really big run out and you've got some quite tricky balancy climbing.
For most people, just doing that route is an achievement, but you've done it in very, very weird clothing. This sort of old Everest gear.
Year before that we did it in kind of fake masks and dressed up as old blokes that looked like we must have looked like we were about 95 years old, and we had the mobility scooter. Hardest year was definitely the Minions, so we had these gigantic blow-up Minion suits. It was as if you were trying to climb inside a tent. You had the worst visibility ever.
Was there a moment when you're on that top arête and you're looking at potentially a ground fall dressed in a Minion suit? Do you feel a little bit silly at that point?
Well, that particular one on the Minion suit, I think that's the only year where we've ever tried to do it on a top rope, because it was literally that dangerous. I mean, we tried bouldering in the Minion suits, and as soon as you get 1 foot off the ground, you can't even see the ground. So it's a bit like going climbing and closing your eyes and just, reaching around. I mean, I can't over-egg how bad it was, but certainly I think the year when we did it in fat suits, and we had these huge great suits we were wearing, and they themselves weighed, I think it was 13 kilograms, and I was thinking, this is just, I don't know, it's on the margins of safety versus just fun and worth it.
It's hard to explain that to your wife when you come back with broken legs because you were in a fat suit on Master's Edge.
Yeah, or to your friends down the wall going, why on earth have you just done out 6 months of your own climbing?
And then moving from Master's Edge into a route that you put up that no one has repeated, which is E9, I think?
Yeah, E9, yeah.
So tell me a bit about that, because it's one of the most dangerous things you've probably done.
Yeah, probably, objectively, it's probably one of the more dangerous routes I've done, because at the time I was particularly seeking out a route that was physically pretty hard, but also psychologically on the limit of what I could do. And I spied this line down the side of the Master's Edge wall that I knew was going to be really challenging, and at first instance I was pretty certain I would never have the balls to climb it. And that was, for me, a really interesting process to go through, because I think we often look at climbing and go, yeah, I can do that, or no, I can't. But that one was on the limit, and it took me quite a long time to cross over that threshold and then eventually go and lead it. And it was just a very interesting process to go through. I suppose it teaches you a little bit more about yourself and what you think, and now maybe I will calm it down a little bit and do some slightly safer routes.
You talk in the video about it being quite cathartic, and the fact that once you've done it, you're kind of okay with letting that side of climbing go a little bit. Just explain that a little bit, because it was something I couldn't get my head around. So you climb this very hard thing, and then you were like, okay, I'm now done with dangerous, terrifying routes, or do you think that might come back to you slowly in a couple of years' time?
I wouldn't say I'm done with dangerous, terrifying routes. I still enjoy them to an element of them, certainly. But I wanted an experience by which I could learn something and challenge myself personally. And I know it sounds a bit kind of Zen-like and all, you know, new modern age, whatever. But I'm just this climber who's really fascinated in doing different things and seeing what it feels like, and I wanted to feel what that process was like, and I wanted to choose something that I knew I could physically do, but would I be prepared to mix the difficulty plus the intensity with it and the psychology, because it's easy to go and do, well, not easy, but it's doable to do hard trad routes in a head point style which aren't very hard physically, but the combination is, well, for me it's hard.
There's an amazing video of it, and we'll put that in the description below this episode if you want to go and watch that. And it's worth watching, because it's cool to see you in a totally different state than I've ever seen you climb before. So yeah, please watch that video, because it's awesome. So moving on from this section of the crag, London Wall around the other side, we've got to go and talk about that.
Yeah, sure, yeah, let's do that.
So coming up to this wall, it's immediately obvious just because of the colour of it. It's a deep red, and there's a very obvious crack line that cuts through the middle of it, and that's London Wall.
Yeah, it's the crack line of Millstone and perhaps the whole of the Peak District. Absolutely mega line.
And I've seen you climb this, I've seen you solo this, I've seen you do it in approach shoes for 510. Do you remember the first time you climbed this route? What was that like?
I first climbed it all the way back in maybe 1999 or 2000, when I was a student at university, and I think it was the hardest route that I'd done at the time, and it was real battle for me. And I remember being on the top crack of it and just running it out, because I had no gas at all to even think about placing any gear, and I felt like I maybe never do anything harder than that.
When you soloed it, how did you come to the decision to do that? Because I mean, it's still, you know, you don't want to fall off that thing at any point. When was the moment you were like, right, I'm ready to do this now?
For the soloing London Wall, it was more like maybe a present to myself, because I love soloing. I find it one of the most enjoyable experiences in climbing, and I love this route. I've climbed it loads. So I wanted to combine the two and create just a totally kind of sublime experience of mixing soloing plus my favourite route and feel really in the zone. And so I just climbed the route a lot over a period of a few months, just becoming really, really familiar with it and just sensing how my own personal risk felt about it, until one week I just went, you know what, this feels right now and I'm going to do it. And when I came out, I must have soloed it maybe like 6 or 7 times that week. And a couple of days I soloed it a few times in those days, and then one of them I topped out and I stood at the top and I went, that's it, it's done now, it's over. I've had an absolutely wonderful time with it, but I'm done with it. It's just brilliant. I wish I could do this every day of the week. I enjoy it so much. One of the things that's probably the greatest shame about soloing, and especially on the longer and harder routes, is that if you think about it objectively, it does get dangerous over time. And I suppose the real shame is that I can't spend 100% of my time climbing in this style.
'Cause it's one of those routes, and for people who haven't seen it before, it's okay, and then that final crack is the sort of sting in the tail, isn't it? That's the heartbreaker, because it does get steeper and it's harder to place gear. Are you an advocate for running that bit out or placing gear? Because I know there's 2 schools of thought about it.
I'd say your chances of success are much higher if you run it out and just go for it, because the feet are really poor, so it's very hard to place gear. And what you want to do is take all the gear off your harness and leave it on the last piece, and you have there's no get out.
Nice, I like that. Cool, well, thank you for showing me around Millstone. We're going to go around the corner because it's a little bit soggy around here, and climb an E2 on the other side, I think. So let's get some harnesses on.
Yeah, be ace.